What kind of a person says they've got a bomb in their briefcase, gets $200,000 in ransom money, and then jumps out of a plane with a parachute and disappears?
DB Cooper.
DB Cooper.
DB Cooper.
DB Cooper.
DB Cooper.
Walking to an airport back then was like walking into a supermarket.
Put down $20 and you got a flight. That was pretty much it.
That is what Cooper did that day.
Hello and welcome to Screen OD. I hope you're having a good day. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, my name is Tim. I'm an editor and a journalist who's been talking and writing about TV, movies and the entertainment industry for 15 years now. If you're not new to the channel, sorry, you've heard that before, but it's great to have you back. If you are new, do think about subscribing to the channel for the best content direct to your feed. And of course, if you like the video, do hit that like button because it helps more people see this content. Right, today we are talking about a new Netflix limited series. It's a documentary and it's about one of the most fascinating cold cases that has ever been made, and one that continues to get people talking across America and across the world. Yes, it's more than 50 years since DB Cooper walked into an airport, hijacked a plane and disappeared off the face of the earth. What happened to DB Cooper? DB Cooper? Where are you?
The hijacker, carrying a briefcase which held explosives.
He asks for $200,000 and 4 parachutes. Once his demands have been met,
jumps out of a damn jet in the middle of the night. I mean, there's just something kind of badass about that.
Okay, so what's this all about? Well, it's a Netflix docuseries, and as you all know, if you watch Netflix, they make a lot of docuseries, and this is really one of the good ones. They're not all as good as others, but this is definitely near the top of the tree. It's actually made by Full World 73 Productions, which is a company that James Corden's involved with, and it makes the late, however many lates it is, show with James Corden for CBS, but it's also got a history of making quite a lot of interesting documentaries now as well. And this is definitely at the top of the pile. So it tells the story of a man called DB Cooper. Now, if you haven't heard of him, he's a bit of a legend in certain parts, certainly in the Pacific Northwest of America, but across America and across parts of the world. He's referenced a lot in popular culture. You may have noticed references to him in Loki when Tom Hiddleston jumps out of a plane. He's also referencing things like Breaking Bad.
Oh, look at you. Should I call the FBI and tell them I found DB Cooper?
This is someone who is in popular culture, but who is he and what did he do? Well, that's what this is about. This is a series about telling you the audacious story of DB Cooper and what he did when he hijacked an airline and then disappeared. But also it's about the people who have spent many, many years, in some cases many decades, trying to solve this mystery. He has become somewhat of a folk hero in certain parts of America, and there are people who are out there who really do think that they're following leads that can find this man. If you are familiar with British history, you may have heard of someone called Lord Lucan, who also disappeared in very mysterious circumstances and has never been found. And there is a sort of tinge of, there is something quite similar about this story, although this is very much an all-American story, as you're about to find out. The first part of this story is all about telling you what happened, or what we know happened, with DB Cooper. And this is a story that is absolutely fascinating. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving in 1971, this guy waltzed into the airport in Portland and he bought a ticket to go on Northwest Orient Flight 305 to Seattle. He got on that flight, and when he was on the flight, he passed a note to the flight attendant on the plane which said that he had a bomb in his briefcase. From there, he had demands, which is he wanted the plane to be landed in Seattle. He wanted $200,000 to be brought onto the plane as ransom money, which is about $1 million in today's money. He then wanted the plane to have 4 parachutes equipped on it, and then he wanted the plane to take off again. He then gave instructions of what he wanted the plane to do. He wanted it to fly very low, and he wanted to fly very slowly. He got everyone to go into the cockpit, and then at one point during the flight between Seattle back towards Portland, he jumped. He disappeared. He went down with a parachute and he was never seen again. 51 years later, no one knows what happened to DB Cooper. But this remains the only story of a hijacking in the history of America which has not been solved. This is a story that is fascinating and you just cannot hear enough about it.
This case is one of the most interesting things that I participated in the FBI. It endures.
There are new suspects all the time, but there's no direct link to any of them.
Focus on the facts.
this case forces you to question your own sanity.
Why did you run, Bob, if you're not guilty?
We have over 100 pieces of evidence.
The treasure's too great. It's too good a story.
And if you're looking for plenty, you do get plenty with this documentary because it's really slick, it's really well put together, and it tells you the story of what happened through the voices and through interviews with people who were actually there. The man who sat next to DB Cooper on that flight, the flight attendant who was passed the note, and many of the people who've been investigating the case ever since. What is fascinating about this as well is that it was a crime where no one was actually hurt, and he seemingly did get away with all of the money. And that means that he, instead of being seen by a villain by many of the people at the time, once the case became clear that it had happened and perhaps this guy got away with it, he kind of became like a folk legend, a kind of hero, certainly in the Pacific Northwest, but across America as news spread, as people were kind of, that was kind of he was showing it, giving it to the man. This is a kind of legend almost that has been born from this, and people started wearing the DB Cooper Where Are You t-shirts, which is kind of where the name for the show came from. So this is a show that doesn't just look at what happened and perhaps what happened to him. It looks at the legend that has grown up around him. There are, bars serving beers named after the flight. There are all sorts of things going on. It's referenced in popular culture time and time again. This is something that just isn't going away. But what we also look at are the people that still 50 years on are looking at how do they solve this case. This is the greatest cold case essentially in American aviation history, but possibly one of the great cold cases in American history. And there are lots of people out there who are writing books about it, who are trying to investigate, and there are citizen journalists trying to find this man. Is he still alive? Did he make it from that parachute jump? And if he did, where is he? And can he be tracked down? That is at the nub of this series, which is really fascinating, beautifully put together, and really has you engrossed in a story that could be told time and time again. And you don't mind hearing it from lots of angles because it's so fascinating. Now, I must admit, I'm a little bit of a true crime skeptic sometimes when it comes to these docuseries. I think that they're often too long, and I think often they are stories that have been told many times before and there's nothing new to say. This, however, doesn't fall into that category. It's the right length. There's plenty to it. The way it's been put together keeps you interested all the way through, and there are plenty of new angles that are explored throughout the series. So if you're looking for an absolutely gripping true crime documentary with lots of intrigue and a story that you just couldn't make up, then I really recommend you go and watch this right now, wherever you live, on Netflix.
I know who he is in my heart.
You're sucked into the Cooper vortex.
That's it. That is the review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do hit that like button and do consider subscribing to Screen OD, because we'll give you all the best content to watch direct to your feed. You can just kick back, relax, and do all the hard work by watching great TV and not looking for it. Go check out all the other videos on Screen OD, and we'll see you again very soon.